As much as I hate the feeling of the sand between my toes, I cannot deny my love for the beach. I enjoy the sounds of ocean waves, especially on a warm, cloudy day. And to be honest, I think picnics were meant to be on the beach. I would have a picnic at the beach rather than a park any day. But maybe that's because the closest parks near me aren't exactly the best. I mean, it's where some of my biggest ops in life reside. Ahem, the geese. So I am biased with my opinion, and don't get me started with how beautiful the sunset looks at a beach. With that said, I absolutely adore video games located in such a setting, and Super Mario Sunshine is one of those games. And with that feeling in mind, I started up my Switch and got to play. The best part? I can even run on the sand without a worry it will get in my shoe later. Although, this is not a vacation game as we still have Sunshine Sprites to collect, enemies to defeat, which leads us to the topic of today's video, ranking the second episode of every location in Super Mario Sunshine. 2 months ago, I posted a video where I ranked the first episode of every location in Super Mario Sunshine, and so if you haven't watched that, don't watch it yet. Stay here, relax a bit, take a load off your shoulder, cause I will reiterate the rules anyways. Because I am ranking Sunshine Sprites that come from the traditional 1 to 8 episodes, areas like the Airport Strip, Isle Delfino, and Corona Mountain will be excluded. I will also be ranking only episode 2 of each location from worst to best. And before I forget, what's up Sour Buds? It is Little Lemon Drop dropping in with another video. How are you? I hope you're doing well. And if it's your first time here, let me know, what was your favorite area from Sunshine? I've mentioned this before, but one of my favorite bosses from Sunshine is Petey Piranha. I adore plant hybrid critters. Why do you think I like pigment so much? And sometimes love is blinding, but in this case, my adoration for Petey Piranha was not enough for me to overlook its many flaws. Others have stated this before in their boss rankings for Sunshine, but Petey Piranha is basically the buff version of a polluted piranha plant. The mechanic to defeat them is similar. For instance, you have to wait for the polluted piranha plant to open its mouth and then shoot it with water. If its mouth is closed, it will have no effect. This is the same for Petey Piranha where you have to wait for him to open his mouth. However, this time you need to continuously shoot water into his mouth until his tummy is filled, basically waterboarding the poor guy. Once his stomach is filled with water, Petey Piranha will fall back and you are to then ground pound his belly, which I didn't realize until now is incredibly painful. I think this is one of the worst ways to go down in a fight. What bothers me a lot is that Petey Piranha has potential. This is showcased in our second fight against him, as he has the ability to fly, the ability to traverse the area. But in episode 2, he remains confined to the windmill, as when we reach the top of the windmill, we both end up crashing down into it, and I just felt like this fight was another tutorial boss. It's also why I think Petey Piranha may have been the intended boss for episode 1, as you do have the ability to fight him then, as this is the only Sunshine Sprite that you can achieve out of the intended order that Sunshine intended. Anyways, Petey Piranha and the Phantom Manta are some of the few bosses in Sunshine that do not remain confined to one spot. They have the ability to move around and have the player really engage. So it's a wasted opportunity to have Petey Piranha confined to the windmill when our second fight shows us that he can move and really make a mess of things. Cause the latter half of the episodes in Bianco Hills are basically an enhanced version of what we've seen before. But why do we need to wait for that later? There's no need to hold the player's hand for this long. Following Bianco Hills, we have the race against Piantissimo in Pianta Village, which is kinda like a more drawn out Shadow Mario episode. In the race against Piantissimo, we're to always try and beat him in a race by touching the flag that's set up at a certain point before him. And one of the best ways to beat him is by spraying the floor with water and sliding on it. If you fall behind Piantissimo, it's kinda like you're chasing after him, or he's chasing after you to be first. That's if you're ahead. So this is why I kinda get Shadow Mario vibes from this episode, but I prefer it this way over the actual Shadow Mario episodes. Although, there's really not that much going on in terms of the race itself against Piantissimo. It's really not that difficult, but I do appreciate what it does to the scenery. It's like a little nod to the island living that goes on in Isle Delfino, as all the NPCs in the area get in on the action, and I like those little details. I'm always a sucker for them. It reminds the player that the ruckus Shadow Mario made really does affect the people who live there, and this was originally supposed to be a vacation for him, Princess Peach, and everyone involved until it got interrupted. And while I enjoyed this level, especially talking to all the NPCs before and after the match, I just don't think it was strong enough to rank any higher. And while some would make the argument that Pianta Village is the worst for the following reason, that there isn't much going on, I think Bianco Hills episode 1 and 2 are an underwhelming start, as they don't differentiate that much. At least Pianta Village switches it up, and I like that we explore not only the night, but the daytime too. So in my last video, I placed Piña Park episode 1 as the second best under Serena Beach, and I took note that the two can technically alternate for first place depending on your criteria, as both episodes left strong impressions and played into their theme. Piña Park episode 2 did not do that though. It missed the mark entirely. I don't care for the mole in Sunshine. I feel like it's an out of place enemy that doesn't contribute much. I don't think any Sunshine fan goes, "Hey, you know the mole from Sunshine? That's my favorite boss." I don't think anyone says that, but that's just my opinion. If the mole is your favorite, that's cool. Some people feel this way about PD Piranha, who is my favorite. They don't like PD Piranha, but I do, and I respect that. With that said, they could have made the mole make sense as an enemy in Piña Park, play into the theme of an amusement park, like hijacking the roller coaster or putting the cannon inside the park so the setting doesn't look so bare, as episode 1 really played into the theme of an amusement park with Mecha Bowser, but then episode 2 kicks us out of the park to deal with the ruckus that's going on outside, and it's a very small and confined space to work with. So I don't get why we need to have an episode that focuses on this little beach when there's still space in the theme park. In fact, the cannon could have been set up at the center of the water arena where we fought Mecha Bowser. As I was saying, the fight against the mole is also not difficult and incredibly easy. It's very straight to the point. It's similar to his fight from episode 1 of Noki Bay, except the player doesn't have the risk of accidentally falling off a ledge, and when the player is out of reach, the mole will fire 3 different types of bullet bills. You will need to use these bullet bills to get the blue coins hidden under the baskets. So the black bullet bill is straightforward and travels in an arc, the purple bullet bill will hone in on you, and the gold one will give you coins if you spray it with flood. Then, when the player gets close to the cannon, as always, the mole will retreat and start tossing out bombs instead. You will need to throw these bombs like before back to the mole to defeat it. Once he is defeated with 3 hits, the cannon will open up a secret stage, so the level is not over yet. Once you enter the cannon, flood is taken away as always if you haven't beaten the level before, and you are met with the first part of the stage where you basically have to run across red blocks and avoid the ones that are fading away. Then for the second half, it's still the same premise, but you need to focus more on the timing. Overall, a very straightforward and simple stage. I like this secret level, but I wouldn't describe it as difficult. If anything, it's actually one of the least memorable ones for me. I think the second one we experience in Piña Park is more memorable, and I tend to forget about this one, which is a shame as I do like secret levels, and even repeating it again with Flood doesn't make it more memorable for me. This feels like a stage I'd expect as a tutorial, but not this late into the game. Overall, Piña Park episode 2 plays it safe and straightforward, but a little too simple. It felt incredibly underwhelming after what we were served in episode 1 with Mecha Bowser. If you saw the thumbnail of this video, then it goes without saying why Noki Bay was ranked low. Again, there is no escaping the Gooper Blooper. They literally copy and pasted his fight from Rico Harbor to Noki Bay. And here's the thing, I'm not against enemies being repeated in video games, but you need to switch something up at least, and not just the setting. And the irony is, the Gooper Blooper is obviously a sea creature, and yet we never fight him in the water. So, for the premise of episode 2, we are trying to collect a sunshine sprite that is hidden in the ruins, which is one of Noki Bay's secrets as it's located in the tomb of an ancient Noki king. The water around us is still polluted, so we need to carefully make our way there. That means avoid getting smacked by the pink fish. But wait, the pink fish are clearly unaffected by the polluted water. I understand the argument if there is no sea creatures able to survive in the polluted water, but because they can, I think the Gooper Blooper could survive it too, and that would have been an interesting boss fight where we have to fight the swimming blooper and avoid falling to the polluted water. I mean, the reach of his tentacles would have been perfect for this idea, and Noki Bay is one of the areas besides Rico Harbor that has a plentiful amount of water to work with. You could have even included his family. Who knows, maybe the one we fought in Rico Harbor brought some friends this time to back him up. It would have been a nice change of pace considering most bosses in Sunshine fight by themselves, but I digress. What saves the level for me is the introduction of new pathing. Noki Bay may not seem like the most intricate area to the average eye, but if you spray water on the wall paintings, a path will usually open. Only temporarily though. It's a similar mechanic to the Doom Buds you water at Gelato Beach, and so we need to follow this hidden path that will lead us to a secret Shine Sprite. I like how this Shine Sprite ties in with the culture of the Noki, and collecting blue coins from these hidden paths was fun, actually. I know that we have mixed feelings about blue coins. Some coins are just way more tedious than they are challenging, but I think this level kept it fresh and is what kept me from ranking this episode any lower. They also could have just scrapped the Gooper Blooper and given us a mini boss or anything really, and I wouldn't have minded as much, but because we're ranking episode 2 from each location, and we already discussed Gooper Blooper in episode 1, I think it's only fair that I be extra harsh at this point. Next up is episode 2 of Gelato Beach, Mirror Madness, Tilt Slam Bam, which takes on a different direction from other episodes. So most episodes in Sunshine don't follow a back-to-back narrative as the main objective. For example, episode 1 of Pianta Village was helping the Chain Chomps cool down, and then episode 2 was the race against Piantissimo. Neither of these objectives are really connected to each other, but for episodes 2 to 4 of Gelato Beach, these objectives will have a clear connection, so if you don't care about the little storyline, then this may not be a favorite of yours. But I appreciate the change of pace, as I did say that one of my favorite things about Sunshine is when we learn more details about Aldefino and its culture. It really helps immerse the player into the world we're navigating, and one of the notable things about Gelato Beach is that it is home to the legendary stand bird. At the moment, it is just an egg, but it is currently in danger due to a giant wiggler taking a nap on it. By the way, this is my favorite variation of the wiggler cause it looks so silly and cute as it naps. Anyways, the basic premise of this episode is to try and find a way to get the wiggler off. In order to achieve this, we need to get rid of all the plungulos, also known as giant catacracks, on the reflective panels. By doing so, the reflective panels will wake the wiggler and get it off the sandbird egg. Now, the giant catacracks aren't the most unique design. I mean, it's just a bigger version of the current catacracks we see around the beach, so if you don't like the catacracks, then you're definitely not going to be a fan of the bigger ones. Luckily, I do, and I feel like the devs are probably joking. It was like, if you like this, then here it is again, but bigger. Although, I definitely can understand the argument on it being a missed opportunity to introduce other types of enemies on the beach, rather than more catacracks. I've made this point before about the Gooper Blooper and its multiple appearances, so I think it's fair to say that the same can be applied here, or at least add more changes to it besides the catacracks being bigger and having feet like a plunger. Actually, they could have given us other octopus-themed enemies if they want an enemy to have suction, cause I get the idea what they were going for. The catacracks, or well, the plungulos have plunger feet as a way to stick onto the reflective panels, but they're not a difficult boss. In total, there are 6 plungulos and 3 reflective panels, so 1 plungulo resides on one panel, 2 on the next, and 3 on the last. One of my favorite details is when Mario steps on a panel, the music changes to reflect this, and I can still remember the sound to this day. But yeah, you need to push the plungulos onto the edge of the mirror with water until one of their feet is in the air, losing their footing. That's why the plungulos have plunger feet, to help them from losing their balance, and then once one of their feet is in the air, you need to ground pound the opposite side of the mirror to send the plungulo flying. The first one by itself is quick to get rid of, but for the rest, it can take a bit of time if you allow the other plungulos to move around. Overall, it's a pleasant episode in my opinion, short and sweet. I don't really have any complaints about it, just potential tweaks could have been done, like increasing the difficulty for other panels, just cause adding more plungulos to me wasn't enough. Cause you can get rid of multiple plungulos at once, it doesn't have to be done one at a time. So maybe I would have increased the aggression of the other plungulos even further to help protect the one you're spraying, Or I would have preferred the boss fight against the Wiggler as part of this episode. Yeah, actually, I think that would have been a great idea because I feel like something is amiss, and I think it's because there was no need to drag this storyline out for 3 episodes. It could have been summed up in 2. And so this episode would have felt a lot stronger if that change had been done. But I do give credit for the change of pace and attempt at a back-to-back storyline as an objective, and it's why I ranked it higher. Speaking of storylines, we have Serena Beach Episode 2, which introduces an ongoing theme for the hotel. That is, being haunted by booze. And I am a Luigi's girl. If you were to ask me, Mario or Luigi, I would say Luigi in a heartbeat. And this is because of Luigi's Mansion. Luigi's Mansion is one of my favorite games, and so I love the little reference to it for Episode 2. In Episode 2 of Serena Beach, the hotel owner makes a reference to Luigi's Mansion when you talk to him, and this is also because Flood was invented by Professor Egad. I actually didn't catch on to this the first time I played Sunshine because I played Sunshine first before I played Luigi's Mansion. So the funny thing is, when I finally played Luigi's Mansion and saw Professor Egad, it clicked on me why his name was familiar. I actually didn't know until now that Luigi's Mansion was released before Sunshine, so I appreciate the reference. I think it's fun when video games give a little nod to their other releases. But for the premise of this episode, we are trying to figure out the source for what's summoning these boos, and so we need to make our way up by spraying pink boos that surround the totem pole with water. By doing so, the boos will temporarily transform into square platforms that Mario can jump on. When we make our way to the top of the totem pole, we find a boo statue that Mario can then enter, which leads us to another secret level. While this isn't the most difficult secret level, I thought it was fun and straightforward with what needs to be done. For me, a good secret level doesn't have to be overwhelmingly difficult or complicated, but does just enough to keep it from being forgettable, because sometimes the complication takes the fun away and being too simple means leaving no impression. And so out of the secret levels, this one is a solid all-arounder on keeping it safe. There's still room to slip up, especially with the sand blocks or rolling gear, but it's also not the most complex, and I do enjoy revisiting this level with Flood. I mentioned this in my last video, but I really do appreciate how we're able to replay secret levels with Flood, and it's not just a copy and paste experience. The game did try to shake things up by adding red coins to collect under a time limit, and while it's a subtle change, it actually does a lot for the player, and so you can rarely go wrong with the enjoyment of a secret level in Sunshine. Well, at least for now. I'm probably gonna take that back when I do a ranking on every secret level in Sunshine. But hey, let's enjoy this secret level while things are still going good. And last, but definitely not least, we have episode 2 of Rico Harbor, which is a huge step up from its ranking in the last video. But honestly, when I think Rico Harbor or Sunshine, one of the things that comes to mind is the blooper surfing. If anything, I think the episodes where Mario writes a blooper are the most memorable from Rico Harbor, and I would love a bonus arena or something in Mario Kart where everyone just writes bloopers instead. A Mario surfing game with bloopers would be amazing, a game dedicated to just that. Or a new Sunshine game. That would also be awesome. But you know, no pressure at all. Take your time, Nintendo. But for the premise of episode 2, we are met with the big daddy of blooper surfing, or as some simply put, Bloopy. He's a cool guy, I think. Not much is known about him. To be honest, if I met anyone who referred to themselves as the big daddy of something, I'd probably walk the other way. I'd make a mental note to not associate with them. But I digress. You will need to borrow one of the bloopers to get to the blooper race that is available in this episode past the barred sewer entrance, which, now that I think about it, is what we're doing legal? Cause why are we engaging in some race in the sewers for a Sunshine Sprite? Does Booby have connections to the Tanuki black market on Isle Delfino? Did they charge you 10 blue coins as well? I guess it's not a true vacation without running into a scam. Anyways, there are 3 different colored bloopers, each with different handling stats. It's up to you which one you want to use, but once you're on, you cannot get off. So be careful to not collide with any obstacles or it will cost you a life. There are also blue coins present, but they will still be available in a later episode if you don't want to risk it while riding blooper. You can always use the rocket nozzle. Once you're inside the sewers, you will have to select a blooper again for the race. There are different obstacles and sharp turns involved, but you also have the ability to skid on top of the surface to cut time. Use shortcuts, cause if you're too slow, Booby won't award you with a shine sprite, and if you redo episode 2 and score under 40 seconds, you will earn a secret shine. There's also room for errors, so be sure to watch out. Overall, I'm just a big fan of the blooper race. I actually really like this idea and I think it's unique. In fact, I would have loved for more. I think Noki Bay and the airport strip are perfect locations to include a blooper race. It's a nice change of pace from what we experienced with other episodes, and it ties in well with the theme of sunshine. And they could also create different obstacle courses for the race. For instance, courses that utilize more moments where you need to jump over something. Out of all the episodes we reviewed today, I think this one left the biggest impression on me, and it's why I ranked it as the best. With that said, what was your favorite episode out of the ones you ranked today? What was your least favorite? And thank you so much to everyone who left a comment on the last video. It truly encouraged me to continue with this series, and hopefully I'll see you again for episode 3. Until next time, this is Little Lemon Drop dropping out. See ya, bye bye, have a good day.